Today I'm going to actually listen to somebody else for a change. I know, right? So this one's going to be kind of somewhat of a mix of a quick tips and a bit of a sort of more musings based video. What I've basically done here is scoured a few different sort of official or official-ish tutorials for painting Necrons. I've looked specifically at the Szarekhan Dynasty because that seems to be the one that GW is basing a lot of their box art around at the moment. And I've kind of extrapolated from that all the different paints that tend to get recommended for painting Necrons, the different techniques that tend to get recommended for painting Necrons. And so I want to ram them all together and try and kind of do a really nice Szarekhan Dynasty Necron using all those paints and techniques. And hopefully we'll learn a bit about, you know, the good, the bad and the ugly. So let's paint. Okay, so I ordered a bunch of these paints so that I could make this video. Here they all are in a big old jumble. You can see a couple of them I already owned, you can tell by the dirty pots, but most of them I did buy for the occasion. They are Necron Compound from the dry range, Canoptek Alloy from the layer range, Runelord Brass from the base range, Contrast Black Templar, which I already owned, the new Cryptek Armour Shade Gloss, the Tesseract Glow Technical Paint, and some Corax White that I already owned, which is only really here because it needs to be. Starting off with a black primed miniature here. There he is, 360 degrees of primer. And we're going to start out checking out a heavy dry brush with that Necron Compound. And I'm not going to lie, I was very impressed by just how much of a bright silver with a good amount of variance to it this gives. I thought it would either be a really sort of flat, clunky, chunky kind of all one tone, or I thought it would just be a really, really slow build-up where it still looks quite black through the paint. But look at it, it's really lovely. There's loads of natural variance to it. It's got a scratchiness to it. It's a really good dry silver paint. So that one gets a big thumbs up. Then next, I wanted to try a recommended technique. This actually came from Duncan Rhodes, of painting the Black Templar contrast paint over all of your recessed joints, all of your sort of skeleton areas, after first painting them in silver. It looked really good in his video, but I felt like he did it a bit too dark. So I just did it a little bit more subdued and actually loved the way it came out. It sort of self-highlights. If you look, everything kind of looks like it has an edge highlight to it already, which I think is super dope. So this one was a big thumbs up. Really, really liked it. Next we're going to start playing with that Runelord Brass. And first of all, we're just going to do some base coating with it, because I think that's the main thing it's going to be used for, is a base coat with sort of various washes applied over the top of it. It's a bit of a kind of rose gold colour on its own, so I don't know that there's a million uses for it on its own as a standalone colour, but I think as a base for that Cryptek armour shade, I think it's going to look great. This is how it looks. Like I say, when you see big blocks of it like that, you can really see why I say it's kind of a rose gold colour. It does remind me of an iPhone. And then with that Cryptek armour shade, we're going to start running over it now. First of all, just doing an all-over shade, and the first thing I noticed is, fuck me, this as a shade is so strong. It's a really, really strong paint. It really, really surface stains and creates a lot of colour, so that's something you're going to have to watch out for. This, believe it or not, that you're seeing right now was already thinned a little. But that's how it looks as an all-over, and I do think it's nice. I think it's really nice. But the other thing I noticed was that they were glazing towards the undersides of things with it. I noticed this from a few bits of the box art. It didn't seem to be explicitly shown anywhere, but I could tell that it had been done. This sort of downward glazing with this shade towards the bottom of these armour panels, and I really like how that looked. And the last thing I saw them doing with it was stippling, little bits of stippling. So where the panels started to get darker towards the bottom, they were then adding bits of stippling in there as well. I guess to simulate kind of wear and tear. And I very much enjoyed how that looked as well, actually. This Cryptek armour shade, it's very aggressive, but I really did like it. Now we're going to go into the Canoptec Alloy, I believe it's called. And the first thing we're going to do is just some base coating with it. It's very transparent for a metallic. I noticed that it was extremely transparent, and in fact I ended up doing some glazing with it because I could tell that it was so transparent. I thought that that might be the better way to use it. We did also do some edge highlighting with it, which you can see here. This is practically out of the pot though because it was so transparent. Just knock in a few edge highlights here. And as I say, I did do some glazing towards the tops of panels as well to kind of produce a counter highlight to that downward glaze. And you can see with all of that, with sort of glazing, edge highlighting and base coating, you can see the different things it does. It's actually a really impressive paint. This one might be my favourite out of these. Next up, these two kind of come as a pair, and they're talking to each other, which is weird. Are they gonna? What? Why are you kissing? Why are you doing that? We have work to do. Yeah, the pair of you, go to your rooms. Thank you. So first of all, let's start by getting some Corax White onto all of the areas that we want to give that Tesseract Glow effect. This is the recommended way to prepare for it. So I wanted to stick with that. And on the weapon, I knew it wasn't going to look good on the flat surfaces of the weapon, so I thought maybe a way that I could make it work there would be to sort of glaze a gradient in, so sort of glaze up with some Corax White and then come back down with some black to create a sort of black and grey value guide that I could then just gently sort of filter over with the Tesseract Glow. So let's get the Tesseract Glow going on to this, folk. You can see I've got all the white areas ready to go here. So let's start getting them filled in. And you see the first thing I did was on these spheres. And you can see when it first goes on, it looks like it is going to give a really good glowing effect. You get sort of a deep green in the recesses, but kind of a really pale yellowy green on the tops, which is what gives you that sort of convincing feeling of a glow. The unfortunate thing is that as that dries, it, in a lot of places, it starts to diminish. Here you can see me just trying to do that filter over the blade. Weirdly, considering this is supposed to be a paint designed to run into the recesses, it felt too elastic to me to use as a filter. It wasn't really that good at just running it over the surfaces. So in the end, I decided to sort of manually stick a few highlights in because the paint, it wasn't really doing that kind of shade and highlight thing that it seems to, you know, supposed to do. It wasn't satisfying me, so I kind of manually chucked some highlights in. But when all was said and done, I do think we got a really nice Necron. I mean, he's a menacing lad, isn't he? Let's be real here. He's a very menacing chap. I like most of these paints, I'll be honest. I think almost all of them really are quite good, and I like what they did for our guy here. So there you have it, a bit of an overview of some of the recommended Szarekhan Dynasty Necron paints. A couple of different things there, obviously a lot of metallics, a bit of contrast, a bit of technical, and if I'm honest, the one that wasn't really my cup of tea was that technical paint, that Tesseract Glow. For me, I think I'd rather spend a little bit more time learning to improve my wet blending or my glazing if I was in a position where I wanted to create that effect consistently. That said, it is very quick, so I can understand if you were trying to just get through an army and get them on the battlefield, that is a glowing kind of effect that you can do pretty quickly. So it's not a thumbs down, it's more of a thumbs sideways, which, you know, it's not the end of the world. The rest of those paints I do think actually that I'll continue to incorporate into my own colour schemes and workups because they all seem to have really cool little uses here and there. I'm particularly very fond of that Canoptec Alloy, the new sort of base Armour colour that's being recommended for the Szarekhan Dynasty. That's really sweet. I love the way it looks. I love the fact that you can glaze with it, which is a bit of a rarity for some metallics. A lot of them don't glaze super well. So I'm going to get out of here for another week, folks, but if you enjoyed this video, please do click like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel because that helps me get seen. If you really like the content that I'm making here and you want to help support it and keep the lights on, that's what people say, isn't it? Keep the lights on. There's a lot of them to keep on. Then you can find my Patreon campaign linked below this video in the description as well. You can pledge there from as little as $1 a month and receive some awesome benefits. But I'm going to get out of here until the next one, folks, so I'll see you all very soon. Thanks for watching.